we are all taking the crusade for democracy, in particular in this time of season election, and it is our hope. Among you is a hope. So, we believe you always come victorious. I pray God Almighty to be with you.
Well, President Bola Tinubu today presented flags to the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress for the upcoming off-cycle governorship elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo states at the presidential villa. The APC candidates are Usman Ododo in Kogi, Governor Hope Uzodinma in Imo, aiming for a second four-year tenure, and Tibipur Siva in Bayelsa, who's just been given a not to run by the Court of Appeal. We're following closely the November 11 governorship election, with the Chief of Defense Staff as well as the Inspector General of Police recently assuring citizens of their safety ahead of that election. Thanks for joining us on the program, everyone. You're watching Beyond 100 Days. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. You can join the conversation right now on X, formerly Twitter. Remember to use the hashtag Beyond 100 Days and tag at TVC News NG. Our attention on the show today is turned to the latest warning coming from Mr. President to his ministers. Perform or be sacked. That's the message from President Tinubu at the 2023 cabinet retreat held yesterday. He said ministers will only retain their offices based on their performances, which will be reviewed periodically. He said, quote, "If you're performing, nothing to fear. If you miss the objective, we review. But if you don't perform, you leave us. Don't be a clog in the wheel of Nigeria's progress," end quote. President Tinubu noted that his special advisor on policy coordination, Adeseye Usman, who will spearhead the result delivery unit, will closely monitor the performances of the ministries, departments, and agencies across the 8 priority areas of his administration. We have more in this report.
President Tinubu has empowered his special advisor on policy to supervise a result and delivery unit that will keep ministers on their toes and monitor their key performance index. President Tinubu also insists his administration will not make excuses for the failures of past administrations and emphasize that the priority of the government will be improving education, healthcare, and eradicating poverty.
At the end of this retreat, we are going to sign a bond of understanding between you, the ministers, the permanent secretary, and myself. If you are performing, nothing to fear. If you miss the objective, we review. If no performance, you leave us.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, who supervises the Federal Cabinet on behalf of President Tinubu, says members of the President's Cabinet must be accountable and work for the actualization of the Renewed Hope agenda.
The bonds contain the ministerial deliverables alongside their key performance indicators, KPIs. Each of the KPIs contain the baseline data and targets for the next 4 years.
There were goodwill messages from the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, and the World Bank Country Director, Shubham Chowdhury. The British envoy says he admires President Tinubu's leadership, especially his international engagements, and promised his country's support for Nigeria.
Nigeria faces big security, economic, and social challenges. In a global context, the big challenges: a difficult global economy, shifting geopolitical and foreign policy pressures.
So we're here to support your programs. We take your guidance from you. But even though we have the word bank in our names, I hope you will think of us as more than a bank. I mean, our real hope is that you will trust us and that we will be able to earn your trust, that we have something more to offer in the nature of solutions.
President Tinubu says the purpose of the retreat is to get the ministers to sign a bond of understanding that will be a commitment to service delivery without any form of mediocrity. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
So what do you make of the result delivery unit under this administration and Mr. President's stern warning for his ministers that they have to deliver or leave the cabinet? How often should this review be done periodically? We'd like to hear from you. You can share your thoughts with us on X using the hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Remember to tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. We're back with more conversation on this right after this break. Stay with us. Well, thank you for staying the course on the program with us. We're exploring Mr. President's decision yesterday, asking the senators to sit up and deliver or leave the cabinet. So we understand there's a result delivery unit that will now closely monitor the performances of the ministers, departments and agencies across the 8 priority areas of this administration. So there's a periodic review that will determine whether they stay on or not. I'm joined now by TVC's executive editor, Kayode Ladende. Thank you for joining us on the program. What do you make of this performance review and how important is it to this administration's renewed hope agenda?
Nifemi, trust me, it's one of the biggest stories I have seen the president that is coming out from the Aso Villa. For the fact that Nigerians want a high level of accountability. Nigeria wants it to be treated like this is more like a business conglomerate, and it should be given all the seriousness that it deserves. You know, sometimes when you look at the way our leaders have all been treating us, you almost think that they're actually our masters. Meanwhile, they're supposed to be servant leaders. So for you to come up with this, and that reminds me politically, when you remember that one of the ministers probably got a favorable judgment at the court, that person might have to actually have a rethink that do I want to be fired if I don't deliver, or I will stay with my mandate for 4 years? And these are critical questions those ministers need to ask themselves. Right. We have seen some of them who are making headlines. We have seen some of them who are in front of camera every now and then. But beyond being on the camera, we need to measure your performance. We need to know what exactly are you doing. And it's so important. And don't forget that this is not a president who is more like a public servant, a civil service person. He has been in private sector. So he knows what KPI is all about. He knows that it's either you do this job that you are hired for, or you excuse yourself, because that might be the case. And so this is a good warning, and trust me, it's not just the president that has given them KPI. We Nigerians have also given them our KPI. We're
looking forward to how well they would deliver on the money. Interestingly, the 2023 cabinet retreat happened just after the PDP governors met with the minister of the FCT. I just cannot but marry the two stories in my head to say, Wike now has to also consider letting go of the political baggages that is carrying right now. Because if it doesn't deliver, according to Mr. President, he will have to go.
Yes, but in the person of Wike, I don't think there's any issue with him performing. Because trust me, he has combined the two very well as a politician. When you look at the definition of a politician, he was building bridges, he was doing all the infrastructure, and while he was also being in charge as a leader in terms of governance. So he might not be a problem, but beyond that, it's just to say that there is work to be done. Absolutely. And you can still be the political godfather in your state, but ensure that you put your house in order. And the president has intervened seriously on that. But beyond that, I think it's about time, because I've listened to Wike sometimes. I've also listened to what he has to say. He seems to be very clear-headed on where he's going. And for those who had their fears that, don't forget that he had been in the federal executive before. So he had been in Abuja. He knows what Abuja looks like. He knows all the nooks and crannies of Abuja. He can even mention all the street by names. So I think it's left for him now to live by what he says and trust him for what he says. he likes to live by what he says.
There's also the political dimension to how the cabinet is usually formed, not only under this administration. There are political calculations and considerations. Do you think that makes it a little bit difficult for the president to fire his cabinet members?
You know, he has done well by rewarding the boys for the hard work and for whatever work they've done, even though some of us have some reservations about some people making the list, even in terms of what they did. We feel that they really deserve to be appointed as ministers, but I think he has done the needful. He has information probably that we don't have. Yeah. He has appointed them and he has given them room to prove themselves. So it will be expedient, because it's still his name that we're talking about. It's still his name that will still be on the lips of everybody. So if truly there is a political consideration, they should also consider his own political, future. They should also consider the fact that he has a contract with Nigerians. These persons were not elected. They were appointed. He was elected. Some people stayed under the sun. Some people risked their life. Some people went through all kinds of things to ensure that he becomes the president. And now, it's not those people that even voted for him, even those that did not vote for him are also saying, Mr. President, you have become our president. Supreme Court litigations are over and you have to deliver. So trust me, whatever he has said is in order, and those people who feel that sense of entitlement better get the message clear.
Whether they are reviewed periodically or not, after 4 years, Nigerians will decide to keep this government or let it go by the power of the ballot. But we're joined now by a former Minister of Works who should know also is a Senator of the Federal Republic as well, Senator Adeseye Ogunlewe. Thank you for joining us on the program. It's been difficult connecting with you via Zoom. Quickly talk to us about what you make of the performance review of the ministers and how it potentially will help with this administration's goal.
Thank you very much for having me. Number one, it's the right step in the right direction, but there is a lot of work to do. One, what are the indices that they want to measure? That will be provided by the permanent secretary and all the directors, and they should formulate exactly what they want to measure, what they want to achieve. That is stage one, just to assist the government. Number two is appropriation. The problem, hello?
I'm with you, Senator.
The problem of this country is appropriation. Appropriation is always distorted, it's always padded. If you don't follow up, if you don't attract the members of the National Assembly, no matter the policy you have, no matter what you want to measure, you need funds. And these funds will, by Constitution, be appropriated by the National Assembly. So what is their role in all these issues? They have the highest role to play, and they must be accommodated and brought on board so that we can have a very fruitful, project implementation.
Absolutely. You were Minister of Works some 20 years ago, and I remember, reading a document where you were quoted to have said, only the president knew why he relieved you of your job in 2006. That wasn't about performance, right?
No. At all, no.
So talk to us about the political dynamics that helps a minister keeps his job, under our current leadership system.
No, things have changed a lot. There are less godfathers around now. People in politics who nominated you there. The expectation is also part of your achievement. And they can convince the president that you are not doing too much in your own constituency. And your constituency members are complaining. That's the political dimension, but I don't think it's going to work with this president like Bola Tinubu, because he has a way of confirming or checking. The tendency for a leader in your constituency expecting too much returns from you is a big problem. You are not servicing your home. You are not servicing your constituency. We are not seeing the minister at home. He's not participating in what we are doing. He's not funding the structure of the party. He has abandoned everybody. He was not selected on our recommendation. So he's not doing a lot for us at his constituency. We don't even see him. The minister may not look at himself as representing the constituency. He's representing Nigeria and Mr. President as far as concerned. So the pressure, the political pressure will come from his constituency, which probably he doesn't even know them. If he knows them, what are their own expectations about him? They will expect so much from him, and if he doesn't do so, they will rise up against him. It's a factor too.
Quick one, Senator. It's been 10 weeks now since the president inaugurated the first set of the 45 ministers. How would you say they are faring? Or is it too early to appraise them?
No, very early, very early. They have not even gone for any appropriation. They don't have money. We cannot run the ministry without funds. So let us wait. This is November now. They have to prepare their budget. That's what we are going to expect them to see. Then let us see what is going to be approved for them, by the National Assembly. Then how much do we have to release?
But the 2023 budget is still quite effective. The president just recently sent a supplementary budget.
That's why we have this supplementary budget. Where is the money coming from? Nigeria seems to be broke. It's a very pathetic situation. What is the level of our revenue to your GDP, revenue to how much we have to pay as debts? So what is the balance sheet like before we know how much is remains to be spent? The economy is not too bad, too good at all in terms of indices, in terms of, figures. If it is the figures we are reading, it is not too pleasant. We have to work harder. We have to be a lot more strategic and be prudent in our expenditure. Because as we are seeing, there is no money. Nigeria is not a rich country as we think at all. Things are really, really, really not favorable.
Hopefully we can begin to see some economic bounce back in the first quarter of next year, because this administration as well, has gone 8 months after inauguration, so there are really no excuses now. Former Minister of Works, Senator Adeseye Ogunlewe, thank you so much for talking to us on the program this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Interestingly, we were at the National Coalition Center together in February. I mean, this is November. I think I was thinking to myself that by February next year, this administration would have clocked, we'll be looking at 1 year after the presidential election. And then by May, we'll be looking at 1 year. Exactly. It's a 4-year tenure.
Exactly. And
Do you think
that's why your program is called Beyond
100 Days?
But on a serious note, I just want to quickly remind us the words of the former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Fashola, when he said that the difference between this incoming president before he became the president and the former President Buhari is that one will say is like a coach. Go ahead and play football and it will not disturb you. You will only see whatever result you come with.
You'll sit on the
but
bench
this
like
one is like Pep Guardiola. It will stay with you. It's following you up. It's saying if you don't put the ball in the right position by putting it in the right net, you're going to get kicked out. So I think these ministers should take this word seriously. It's not a political statement. This is not about the election. It is about the fact that Nigerians are impatient. They want to see this government do some stuff.
I hope that you did not just reveal the English club you're supporting. From your analogy. Kaide Ladede is our executive editor here. Thank you so much for talking to us.
It's a pleasure.
All right, that's our show today. Thanks for being a part of it. We're back tomorrow with a fresh episode. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.